All right, great. So today we are focusing on this important subject on human rights and human rights education. To begin with, yesterday I gave you a bit of introduction of myself, and so it's me, it just happened that I look handsome. It's okay. Listen, one of my philosophy of life is that learning should be fun. When you become too serious in learning, you learn nothing. So let's have some fun. Let's enjoy ourselves. When somebody is handsome, please don't hesitate to say it. When somebody is beautiful, say it. It's all part of life. Life is short, but this is just a little more like an icebreaker as we dived into our learning today. So yesterday we talked about investing in youth. This is a little video of our institute just as a way of introducing it.
Oh, welcome to Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, a research, teaching, training, and leadership institute that critically provides strategic transformational thinking to leaders and students with the opportunity to develop and create lasting impact in their institutions. Championed by a world-class faculty, one-on-one executive coaching, and peer learning, our programs are offered both online and in cohort sessions. Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies partners with academic institutions, civil society organizations, local communities looking to accelerate the impact of their leaders, more effectively engage teams, and build inclusive cultures of employee engagement and performance. We offer courses such as certificate, diploma, and advanced diploma in counseling psychology, marriage counseling, applied psychology, child mental health, conflict and peace studies, international human right law, security and governance, and in gender studies. For enrollment, email enroll@jaglobalinstitute.org or visit us online at jaglobalinstitute.org.
So for the purpose of today, our learning objective is going to be centered around understanding the fundamental human right principles. And if we do a good job, we should be able to recognize the role of the youth in promoting human rights. And then we should be able to develop the needed skills to advocate for human rights in our communities. But what is the use of advocating if you cannot create an action plan to achieve that purpose? And so we will spend some time in developing an action plan to achieve this purpose and this initiative. Just like we asked the question yesterday during the conflict management class, what is human rights? Please put in the chat, what is human right for you? When you hear the word, I think we've heard it many, many times. It's even be overly used. Human right. Again, I want to once again ask all of you, just as I did yesterday, avoid Dr. Google, avoid AI, just share your, just share your, oh, 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 oh. Uh, just share your perspective without Googling it, without being super academic. Because I have come to realize in this dispensation that we live in, if you don't make an intentional effort to learn, you will be learning another person's models. So you Google it, it's going to tell you what somebody think, not yours. You AI it. The generative AI system is going to pull what somebody think about the subject and you share it. You haven't shared anything because that is not yours. So just be very authentic and share what is human right for you. There are no wrong or right answers. We are learning together. So I see a few here. Uh, these are rights that belongs to every human simply by being human. An individual right that cannot be denied in any way. Uh, Human right is a basic human right for human, basic entitlement that everyone must enjoy. I see human right are the privilege of a person has from time to time. I see right that human beings are born with, respecting people's right no matter the race, color, or religion. Human rights are alienable to the right of citizens. Yes, so they are all flowing and coming in at a top pace and top speed, which is okay too. So awesome. Please keep them coming because this is important as we learn and as we grow together on the subject. So these are wonderful, wonderful thoughts that all of you are sharing. I appreciate that a lot. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I see fundamental privileges. Yes, it's a basic and inalienable stuff. I see. Awesome, awesome. Okay, great. So these are wonderful thoughts, but for the purpose of this class, there may be many definitions all over, uh, but for the purpose of this class, just let's use this definition as human rights are basic rights and freedoms that belongs to every person in the world from birth till death. Right? That we are using this definition for a purpose. Because what we are trying to explain here is that we as people, we as humans, because we belong to the human race, there are some fundamentals that belongs to us, and there is absolutely nothing anyone can do about it. The question then is, if all that all of you have typed in the system, filter. Now, if all that you have all said is true, and if our definition for learning is true, then the question then is, why are we still talking about human rights? Let me get two volunteers to speak, not to type, to speak in response to my question. That if all that you have written in the system, in the chat, are all true, why are we still talking about human rights? Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Doc, we are talking about human rights because more often than not, rights of people are being abused, sometimes by the state, by institution, and sometimes individuals.
Got you. Appreciate it. I appreciate it, Duce. Thank you. Great. I also see Faith, your hand is up. Let me hear you. Yes, Faith, go ahead.
All right. Why we are still talking about human rights is because most humans that are born, most people don't actually know what their rights are. And so whether it's being abused, they'll actually not know exactly what the right is. So it leads to so much abuse in the society because they cannot clearly define what belongs to them from birth to death.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that. Abdullah, I see your hand up. You're next. Yes, Abdullah, you are muted.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, sir. And let me have some recommendations over your lectures and the friendship relationships that you have with us since from yesterday to till today. We really appreciated the class and we really appreciated being with you. Thank you so much. Let me talk about human rights in particular. In a simple definition, human right, in order for us Let me just say it in a simple language so that each and everyone in the group can understand what I clearly meant. In order to have just peace and justice all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. Well, I know I asked for two, but there's more hands. So let's, please, nobody should raise their hand again. I will just keep, Godwin, go ahead, and then we will continue the class. Godwin, you are muted though if you are speaking. Okay, it looks like Godwin, it's not available to speak.
Prof, yes, I'm available.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. We are still talking about human rights because abuse thrives in ignorance. So when people don't know their rights can be abused. And sometimes some of the perpetrators also act out of ignorance. So those whose rights have been abused and those who are abusing their rights all need education. Thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so much. And the last one goes to James Palmer. James, go ahead.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, talking about human rights, in as much as we all have rights, we should be able to balance it with the right of others. Many a times we end up abusing our rights. We go over, and where you have to note that where your right and someone's own starts. So once we're able to balance that, we will not have problems of human rights abuses. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now we're going to move forward. Osman, you can ask your question the next time we open the question chat for talking so that we don't waste too much time. And let's move forward. Great. So to that point, what are some of the key characteristics of human rights? So the first thing we all need to pay attention to and to understand is that, and I believe almost every one of you put that in the chat, that human rights are universal. And we call it universal because we believe that it applies to everyone, everywhere. This is important. We are saying that the fundamental right that belongs to everyone is universal. So if there is a right that belongs to me as a citizen of Nigeria, that same right accompanies me to live as an immigrant in the United States or in Liberia or in Togo or in the UK. Wherever you find yourself, that fundamental right is universal. And just as all of you had stated in the chat, this fundamental right is universal because they are rights given to you by God because you exist in the human race. Now, another key characteristic that we need to pay attention to, that human rights are inherent, which means that you were born with it. So if you were born with it, then it is yours. And anything that belongs to yours, you must claim it. And that is the reason why when Eduse mentioned, and James also added, that we are still talking about human rights because the fundamental truth that we think, and I think Faith also mentioned that the fundamental truth of we not even knowing what belongs to us is even one of the reasons why we get abused all the time. And we'll go into deep dive into that as well. Then there is the understanding that human rights are inalienable, which means that it cannot be taken away from us. It doesn't matter how they dragged you into jail. It doesn't matter how they push you and they try to take away that fundamental right from you. It is still yours and it cannot be taken from you. And so we also need to understand that another key characteristic of a human right is indivisible, which means that they all work together to accomplish a task. Now, just to give you a bit explanation and to use some sciences to teach you on that concept. Now, consider the anatomy of the human body. Consider the anatomy of the human body. If you think your eyes are more important than your nose, think again. If you think your ears are more important than your teeth, wait until you get a how do you call it? Toothache, right? Or if you think that your legs are more important than a small skull. Now you will realize that each of your body plays a significant role and they are all working together in order for you to have life. The same is true when you look at the fundamental key characteristics of the human rights journey. Because you will come to realize as we go further that the human rights characteristics each complement each. And that is how we grow and make it more of awareness. Then again, because they are interdependent, they are all connected together. So yesterday I mentioned during class that in order for you to understand a thing, there is importance of you knowing the historical factors that leads to a thing. So let's begin with understanding the historical journey of how we got into where we are now as far as a universal human rights declaration is concerned. Now, one of the things that you need to understand that over the years, we keep talking about, and all of you also gave those foundational conversation and responses by saying that these are rights that were part and parcel of your birth, and nobody is going to take that away from you. But were those rights not taken away from people? They were. If that is true, let me have some case engagement here in class. Please use the chat room. Why, if what all that we said is true about the fundamental right of people, why is it that a certain group of people only become king and queens of England? Why is it that a certain group of people in your family clan can only become a chief in your community? Why? If we are all equal, why? Let me hear your thoughts. Share your thoughts. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. And hey, Kojo, don't be quiet. Please make sure you engage this conversation. I want to hear different perspectives. Professor Ama and Co. I want to hear perspectives. Why, if we said we are all equal and we said the fundamental, yes, Loretta. Yes, Loretta, you can unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, for me, okay, good evening, everybody. Once again, I'm from Nigeria. My name is Loretta Hokbeme. For me, I feel that everybody, irrespective of your status, your creed, your race, your gender, is human first of all. And because we are humans, we are entitled to certain rights. And because we are entitled to certain rights, when we are trying to protect our own rights, we should also remember that other people also exist alongside us, that we are not living in isolation. Therefore, we have to be very deliberate and intentional when we are dealing with others and when we are trying to protect and drive for our rights. That's what I feel about, this. Thank you.
Thank you. But you still didn't address my question. My question
Okay, please.
is,
Maybe I didn't understand it. Please come again.
my question is, if all that you said is true, then
Okay.
how is it possible that only one group of people become kings and queens in our communities? And I give the example of the UK, that it only one household becomes the king or the queen of the United Kingdom, just as in our local traditional places. If you don't bear a certain name, or if you don't come from a certain home, you can never be a king and a queen.
Okay. What I understand from this question you have asked is that we as a people decided that somebody had to rule over us. We were not there when it happened. Our ancestors did that. And because we decided that somebody should be able to represent us in certain things and be our spokesperson and be our face and our image portrayer somewhere to the world, to wherever, we decided we can actually give our authority, like letter of authorization, to certain persons or to certain family to continue to represent us. And then while we were doing that, we also agreed that this same person or this same family can continue to represent us at all times. So it was something that we all came together, agreed. I am believing that because I know that in the African setting and in Nigeria and the Igbo descent that I belong to, we did not have kings and queens initially. We had age grades that were governing, the communities. But at a point, when the British came to colonize us, they made us understand that having somebody represent us was important. And then we now have kings and queens. Sometimes we may not have all come together to say, okay, you go and represent. But somehow along the line, we accepted it and it has continued to go like that. That means somehow we all agreed that this person should be representing us. So we have given that person the authorization letter to continue to represent us. And we as a person also, or persons, have the right to tell this person, we don't need you anymore.
Thank you.
Please come back, so that we can give another person the chance to represent, maybe for one reason or the other. So that's what I understand from the question. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So I see a few hands up. Let's see. Latif, Abdullah Latif Osman. You want to go ahead and share what your thought is? Let's keep it brief as well.
I think the reason is just for someone or a group of people to play a leadership role. That's all, to play a leadership role.
Okay.
Because you can come together as a group without having a leader. So they are there as our kings or queens to play a leadership role.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So now let's see. Abdul, what do you think?
Thank you very much. I hope I'm clear today.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Good evening. What I know is that despite we all have the right to be chosen as kings, we can't all lead. We have to entrust that leadership position to one particular person to take the mantle and lead us. And if you look at past events, sometimes they look at the sense of humor of a person before entrusting a leadership position to the person who they can trust and that the person can do the work very well. So that's why we all have the right. We all can lead. So one person has to be chosen. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So let's see. Aberdeen, Mohammed, let's get you, and then we get Prince, and then we can move forward.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Mohammed Abidin from Nigeria. Well, what I feel is that it's always possible for some people to become kings due to hereditary and the way our monarchy system is. I'm speaking in regards of Nigeria. Power is passed down through specific family lines, and gender inclusion has um historically been limited by patriarchal systems that favored male heirs, and this has just limited the system to believe that some people are to be kings and why some others are cannot be kings. That's just my
Okay,
own point of view.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, Prince.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening once again. Sir, I think there are certain rights that does not belong to everybody,
Mm,
and there are rights to that belongs to everyone. For example, using the kingship or the monarch system, uh, this right does not goes for everybody. Since you don't come from that family or that bloodline, it means whatever you do, you can stretch yourself from the earth to the heavens. You may not be able to get this right to become a ruler today or tomorrow. But there are basic rights that everybody enjoys. For example, right to live. A king has a right to live, and somebody who is not a king also has a right to live. So what it means is, so far as rights is concerned, there are basic rights that everybody is enjoying, and there are other rights too that if you are not part of a particular bloodline, whatever it is, even the laws of the land may not permit you to enjoy those rights because you don't come from that particular lineage. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, all right, good. So the rest of we will also get opportunity to ask question as we go on because we don't want to dwell too much on that. It was just a question. So I thank you all for your hands. You can bring your hands down and we'll call you. And I see there's a responses in the chat as well. Now there was a reason why I asked this question. You know, the reason I asked the question is that the fundamental right of human being have come a long way. And it began in 1215, what was ordinarily referred as the Magna Carta. Now, and this was in England. Now, the reason why the Magna Carta became important was because the Magna, see, like all of you said, some powers were given to the monarch and were given to some people to rule over. But the Magna Carta actually was designed to limit the power of King John. And I don't know if some of you know the historical context of King John and how those monarchs were powerful. Because listen, you just mentioned Prince a few minutes ago that you have the right to live. But guess what? Back in the days, the kings have the right to take your life. Is it not contradictory? How do we get there? That one individual has the ability to say, kill him, and you'll be killed without any question asked. If you guys watch those medieval videos, you know, the 13th century, 16th century, you see how powerful these kings were. And so the Magna Carta was enacted as a way of limiting the power of the king. And it established, you know, it also put in place areas by which the monarch must follow the law. And then also provided a constructive or a constitutional government with the right of individuals as well. Yes, I see kings still have the right to execute in some places. That is the reason why you are in class. That is the reason why we will stop some of this nonsense, for lack of a better word. Because if we are saying that the right of the individual is a right of life given by God, it means that nobody have nobody have the right to take the life of other people. And so this is the reason why we are learning so that we become good advocates to change that. So moving forward, so you will realize that so in 1215, this was established. And then that led to the 1776, the United States Declaration of Independence. When the US declared its independence, it proclaimed that all people have inherent rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So if you have ever met anybody who is from the US or met anybody who understands the US system, and you will always hear them say this phrase. And I think Latoya, you can relate to it very well. You will always hear anybody talking about the fundamental rights in the US will always say things like right, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that the government drives its power from the consent of the governed. And that was in 1776. Because we are looking at the human rights journey, how we got to where we are today. And then in 1789, in France, 1789, the Declaration of the Right of Man was introduced. And this declaration actually established the fundamental principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity during the French Revolution. And that actually declared that all citizens have the natural and inalienable rights. So I know I'm saying a lot of things, but I'm trying to let you understand from what I said yesterday. You need to understand the historical context in order to appreciate where we are. Then in 1948, after the Second World War, after the establishment of the United Nations, in 1948, there was then the introduction of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this actually created the first global framework of human rights and actually established 30 articles that actually defined the fundamental rights and freedom for all people, regardless of race, relationships, or religions. And then in 1989, there was a meeting that actually established what we call the Convention of the Right of the Child, specifically recognizing children's rights with special protection, covering their rights to survival, development, protection, and participation in decisions affecting them. So, as I mentioned, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights was created in response of the atrocities of the Second World War. So today, all of us are talking about fundamental human rights because of this historical journey. To that point, what is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? These are 30 articles that were adopted at the UN General Assembly on 10th of December 1948. The reason why every 10th of December is considered International Human Rights Day. Now, I'll take a pause here before we dive into that and ask each one of you in class. Do you know of the International Human Rights Day celebrated on the 10th of December? If you do, have you personally participated or supported any action to commemorate the day? It's just yes or no answer. There's no need to elaborate. Just put it in the chat. Have you participated? Have you supported? Have you informed people about it? Thank you for your honesty. Yes and no. Good. Uh, if you haven't, this is the reason why you are also part of this class, because we are providing you the awareness and the tools to be able to collaborate and engage with other organizations and institutions to celebrate some of these important declarations. And I tell people, when we said we are championing human rights declaration, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should go out and protest. It doesn't mean that we should go out and do something extraordinary. No, it is basically a way of we making sure that we are actually creating awareness around the globe on the basic fundamental needs. So these articles, which were adapted in 1948, was was broken down into different themes. And the first theme, which is the Article 1 and 2, because remember, it's 30 articles. So the Article 1 and 2 is what we usually will refer to as the foundation principle. It's foundation principle. What does that mean? It actually established that all humans are born free and equal in dignity and right, regardless of color, race, language, religion, and other status. Now, I'm going to be a little controversial with these first two articles. Please pay attention carefully. Now, if we are saying that the first two articles is stemmed on the foundation principle, which is the established that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, regardless of race, color, sex, language, religion, and other status. The question is, why is it that most people, I'm not saying everyone, most people will go heaven and earth to ensure that people who even align themselves as gays and lesbians, how is it that we don't recognize their right to choose who they want to be and how they want to be? Controversial question, but we are leaders and we are learning. And so I want to hear what your thoughts are on this subject. And please be very brief so that we can go forward. Abdul, I see your hand up. I hope you've thought about the question before responding.
Yes, I've thought about the question before responding,
Good.
and thank you for the opportunity again. Looking at this, you see, despite they also have their own right to choose as to who they want to, just like you have your right to choose or to be part of any religion that you have to. But humanly, we see it to be like an outmoded form of maybe a person being that.
But
So
question for you was, hold on, question for you was you are thinking and responding. Why will your perspective of humanly affect somebody's fundamental right? Because the fundamental right is that what I got to do with my life belongs to me. Why do you have to control me? Why do you have to say that your perspective is different from mine? Let's have a conversation.
definitely. So you see, naturally, the world, everyone is being created with a pair. You understand? That's the male aspect and the female aspect. So even like how the world rules is that a male and a female are supposed to go together, not a male and a male. I'm not a discriminatory type that I always try to tell a person as to what everyone has his or her life to live. But if you look at it naturally, everyone is created with a pair, that is a male and a female, even with animals. So if you see someone trying to indulge in with the same sex of person, it's like the formation there has been dredged or hasn't been followed well. So you see, people find it very rare to understand why you should be having a feeling for same sex, but rather than the opposite sex. So it
Okay,
is
thank you
very
so
rare
much.
for people to understand.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Because
you.
of time, I want to keep it short. All right, Loretta, let me see what you say.
Okay, for me, what I believe in this is that our socialization from the onset and our orientation taught us that we only had a man and a woman coming together to be a couple. So now getting people that are now saying that same sex is also going to be qualified to be that, that's why the world is looking at it. Is it really natural? Because they believe that the natural thing is a man and a woman. And of course, even those that are doing same sex still have called themselves a husband and a wife. So the world is now like, it shouldn't be. It should be what our orientation and socialization back then taught us. So for me, yes, irrespective of the fact that we need to respect everybody's rights, but there are certain things also that, if it becomes unnatural, if I must use that word, unnatural, just like people that are claiming to be dogs and birds and that, and even getting married to snakes and all these other amphibians, they said it's their wife or their husbands. It sounds so unnatural, but that does not mean also that they do not have their rights to what they feel. They do, but then the broader society, irrespective of the fact that sometimes even the broader society also is not telling us the right thing. But
Okay,
the
great. Let's keep it.
socialization is what is actually driving it.
Let's keep it short so that others can also chime in as well in
Yes.
that order. Thank you. I appreciate that. Later, Vileta, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Okay, Prof, good evening. My take is the fact that the gay, the lesbianism rights, for me, I feel is against nature, and I feel if we accept it, it's going to bring human into extinction, because family is the basic society or a basic unit of a society. And what is a family? A family is a group of people who are related by blood, who come about by reproduction. When we have a female marrying a female, a male marrying a male, is gradually saying no more children, no more family, and it's going to gradually take the human race into extinction. That's what I think.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that perspective, Latoya.
I think because going back to what my professor said, human rights are neither human nor rights. It's an agreed upon social construct about moralities, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Once upon a time here in the United States, Black people were not considered human. Right? So where's the human and human rights there? And so some people don't think of gays as being human or natural or worthy of anything. And so as we progress as a society and we start to change these rules or these constructs, or we have new agreements or understanding, then they become human, just to put it that way. And that's all I have to say. Sorry.
I appreciate it. That's fine. I appreciate it. All right, Abdullah, let's hear you, and then Kojo, Godwin, and then we'll move forward. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Hope we are together.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead and keep
Yes,
it.
yes, because of the network where I am, there is network fluctuation. That's why most of the time I ask whether you are reading me loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go
So I think it's against the nature, culture, and the tradition, and even against some teaching of some religions. That's all. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. And Kojo.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. There is something that I always say, especially for those who live in Europe and the US. you can understand that when it comes to homosexuality, when it comes to men marry men or women marry women, that is something that is very common here. But let me tell you, when you meet people in the metro, for example, or in the bus, on the bus, and you see a man touching a man in a way like romancing, I can assure you that more than 50% on that bus are not comfortable with it. And that is something people sometimes ignore. But when we come to a public setting, imagine you are a minister, for example, and then as a minister, in your country, you have people who are gays or lesbians. What do you do as Minister of Home Affairs? Your role as a minister is to protect them, no matter what they are. But then when it comes to your personal point of view, you can have your view on all the issues or matters. I have my personal view about homosexuality. I have it. It's my personal view. But then when when I put on my clothes as Kujo, human rights activist, I can assure you I don't have the right to discriminate anybody because of his sexual orientation. You know, because I don't have the right to do that. But when I'm in my house talking with my friends, my family members, I know what I believe and I know what I would say. So we have to try to put a difference between our personal views and then what we are supposed to do as a human rights activist. If you're a human rights activist, you don't have the right to discriminate anybody because of that. I know religion, our personal views, our family, our African culture, but can we be sure, can we be 100% sure that in the Christian religion there are no gays? We can't be sure. And we can't be sure that Hindus are not gays. We can't be sure of that. There are people in our religions, there are people in our families that have that orientation. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Awesome.
But then, as human rights activists, we need to defend everybody. We need to defend everyone. That is my view.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. We don't have time. Godwin, I'll give you the last slot and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Prof. There's a French philosopher called Jean-Jacques Rousseau who said that a man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. I want to say that, you see, it's a definition of the right that we human beings, sometimes people want the one that is suitable for them, that they take that aspect. If it is, they are comfortable, they say, oh, this is right, this is, but if we don't have a point where people will agree that, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, I'm telling you, everybody will only choose and pick what is comfortable for you. So that is where the challenge is. So people have seen the one they are not comfortable with and said, okay, this one is not correct. This one, when they are comfortable with it, they said this one is. So the universality of the right must be something that we must all look at and then not use only where we stand alone. And then when it suits us, then we say it's okay. When it doesn't suit us, it's not okay. So I think that's where the challenge is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's move forward. And there was a reason why I asked that question, because you see, the part of this training is to prepare you and to give you the tools as a human rights advocate and also as a leader. Now, could you say something which is very fundamental? We are all entitled to our views and our perception. Now, Latoya just mentioned that few years ago, we are not talking about centuries, few years ago, blacks were even considered not as humans. Now, until even Abraham Lincoln declaring the emancipation and free slaves. Now, those of you who are from Ghana and Senegal, I'm sure you visited some of the dungeons and see some of the fort and the castles and you realize that while the slaves were under the dungeons, there's a church on top of them. The fundamental right of people doesn't change, to Gordon's point, doesn't change because you are unhappy with it. The principles remain the same. If you are a lawyer and your job is to represent the freedom and the right of everyone, you don't change. Listen, I say this to my students all the time, that the last time you sat in the plane from Nigeria to America, did you care the sexual orientation of the pilot? The last time you were rushed to a hospital and you got into the ER and emergency workers, both physicians and nurses and all the first aid people rushed to your rescue, were you interested in their sexual orientation? Absolutely not. Your number one priority at that particular point in time is that your life will be saved. When you sat in the Trotsky, or I think in Nigeria they call it Molu, or that kind of stuff, when you sat in the car and you left one place to the other, did you actually care about the orientation of the driver? What you care most was that you get to your destination safely. And because you are leaders and you are learning and you are building a coalition of your team to grow, it is very important for you to have this orientation that you don't pick and choose based on intentionality. I hope I'm being very clear. Please give me a thumbs up or put in the chat just to make sure that the fundamental question that I'm asking is something realistic, because none of us care about who drove us to our destination other than the person's qualified experience. Because when you get to the hospital, like I said, I don't know if any of you have had an emergency where you have to be rushed to the hospital. At that particular point in time, what matters to you is your life. What matters to yourself? Even look, the most religious person on earth, what matters to that person at that particular point in time is life. So suddenly, when we become intentional, then we begin to pick and choose what we want to advocate for. If you want to be a human rights advocate, we follow the basic principle of the foundational principle, which is that we are all born free and equal in dignity and rights, regardless of our race, regardless of our sex, regardless of our language, regardless of our religion and other status. So I want to make sure that I have dwelled on the first two principles or first two articles for a reason, because I wanted to make sure that this is a mistake that most of us have done. In fact, recently in Uganda, in Ghana, in Kenya, and in some aspect of Africa, I have seen people who, for many years that I have known them as staunch advocates for human rights, suddenly begin to publicly chastise and undignifying the idea of gays and lesbianism. I'm not propagating that, but as from a human rights standpoint, what I want you to realize is that if you are talking about the fundamental right of people, make sure you uphold that fundamental right irrespective of your personal perspective. If you are not interested in a cause, you stay away from it quietly, but don't condemn. Because if you want to be a champion of a thing, you must embrace it in total. To that point, let's see. So the second article, which we are looking at here, is Article 3 to 11, which fundamentally centered around civil and political rights. And within the civil and political right, it covers the fundamental protections like right to life, right to liberty, right to security, freedom from slavery and torture, equality before the law, and their fair trial. We've heard this many, many times. We are all equal before the law. The law has no respect. In fact, that's why the Lady Justice has been blindfolded, because the idea is that we must be equal before the law. If I pause and I ask, are we really equal before the law? Absolutely not. When I was in high school in Adisada College, I read a book written by George Orwell, which is the book on Animal Farm. And if you read Animal Farm, you will get to realize that some animals were all equal until some people became more important than others. So the reason this is important, and the reason why this made itself into the 30 articles, is because that is one area that people get abused many times. And then we also have the individual freedom, which is Article 12 to 17, focuses on individual freedom. What are your protective autonomies in terms of privacy? Listen, I've seen human rights advocates abuse people all the time. Do you know that if my phone is lying there and I have personal pictures on it, and you extract it and share to other people without my permission, you have invaded my privacy. You have actually infringed on my fundamental rights, my right to personal autonomy. If I feel that where I live right now, I am not comfortable, I am not getting the best of things from me, and so I want to move to another state, another country, and you stop me from giving me asylum, then I want to let you know that you have actually affected my asylum and movement of freedom of movement. If I feel like I want to get married and you say that I cannot get married, you are actually infringing on my personal right of autonomy. So the article 12 to 17 focuses on those fundamental individual freedom to do the things that you want to do without anybody stopping you from doing it. Of course, if you are a child and you want to get married and I'm your daughter or I'm your son, I will not permit that, because you are still under my care and under my protection. So I have autonomous over you because you live under my roof and you are below the age that you can make decisions for yourself. And then the article 18 to 21 focuses on spiritual, public, and political freedoms. You know, we talk about religion. You have the right to belong to any religion that you prefer. That's your choice. I don't have any business to come and tell you that if you are not a Protestant, you are not going to heaven. I've heard people say, I was going to use inappropriate word, but I just realized that I'm in class, so forgive me. But I see people say all manner of things that, oh, well, if you're a Catholic, you are not a Christian. So if you are a Sunni Muslim, then you are not a real Muslim. If you are a Shia Muslim, you are not a real. What kind of rubbish is that? People have the fundamental right to believe what they want to believe in. It is their choice. Allow them to belong to those movements and assemblies and participate in any form of things that they want to, and they will enjoy themselves. And then the article 22 to 27, it's what actually leads to a lot of problems on earth. The economic, social, and cultural rights. You know, because when our economy is impacted, it have a huge impact on you. If you don't have good health care, if you don't have housing, look at what is happening in the world right now. the U.S. organization called the U.S. International Aid, USAID. Look at the amount of work they are doing across the world in terms of healthcare, housing, medication, polio, all this stuff. Suddenly, the current government of the United States says that their work is not important, and so scrap it and close it down. Just yesterday, I saw in the news the US government is actually going to destroy over 50,000 tons of food, because these were food that were supposed to have been supplied by USAID to the world, and we are just going to destroy it. People and children are going to lose their health care because those rural communities don't have those fundamental resources to take care of the needs of people. This is why you are in this class. Don't keep quiet. Don't say, well, as for me, I'm able to pay for my hospital, so it doesn't concern me. Don't say I'm able to do A, I'm able to do B, and so because of that, these things doesn't concern me. No, it does. Pay attention and be participating in that processes. And then the final declaration was focusing. Yes, could you?
Doc, please, can you check the Zoom link, because some people are not able to join. The system is telling them that they cannot register for the seminar.
Well, when you see somebody happening that way, it means that the person was not in class yesterday. I intentionally did that because if you are not in class yesterday, you are not getting any credit. So I don't want to, so thank you. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. So again, one of the things that we need to understand is that the final portion of the article was focused primarily on communities and limitations, because we wanted to make sure that these rights are established for your social order where these articles can be realized. And so we want to make sure that we focus and we work in such a way, a manner that these fundamental rights are known and becomes known to every one of you. So if you are a human rights person in this class, then you need to make sure that you are able to get this done. Did I go too fast? Yeah, I think I went too fast. Okay, right here. So the next thing that we need to also look at quickly as we move forward is that you need to also know the categories of human rights. The categories of human rights. The understanding of the framework is very crucial to the purpose of which we are having this class. We talked about the civil and political rights. Now, these fundamental rights, it is your responsibility as a leader to make sure that the people around you enjoy these freedoms. Right to life. Don't sit unconcerned when people's life are taken away from them. And you see, I tell people, sometimes we think that right to life means that somebody killed you. Well, if you take away my basic food from me, you have killed me. If you take my peace from me, you have killed me. And so it is very important that as we are learning and as we are growing together, we become the champions of giving these fundamental rights to the people who needs it most. To that point, we want to make sure that we are doing everything within our reach to put these categories of economic, social, and cultural rights, as well as the collective rights that every individual needs to have. And once we advocate that, we will then have the opportunity to be able to advocate for the right of the child. So what is the right of the child? The right of the child is it's the right of the child is primarily meant to advocate and to take care of the core principles against children. And it was actually a ratified human rights treaty, which means that the 4 principles are the non-discrimination. All rights apply to children. The fact that they are children, they have those fundamental rights as well as others. And then the best interest of the child. See, the primary consideration whenever you are making a decision for children is you have to make it in the best interest of the child. So if an adult come to tell me that a 9-year-old girl is ready to get married, you are not actually promoting the right of the child. You are actually a perpetrator and abuse of that child. And then we also want to talk about the right to life, survival, and development, which is the physical, mental, and moral decisions that are made on behalf of the child. Listen, most of us, especially in the African settings, unfortunately, we do not respect the view of the child. And that in itself is problematic. So we need to appreciate and understand that children also have rights. Now, let's look at youth as right holders. Youth as right holders. As young people, you have a right to also ensure that you hold all the fundamental rights. Because you see, the thing called fundamental rights, and I think it is, I'm not sure if it's Godwin or it is James who said it, that where your right ends is where somebody's own begins. So to that point, the expectation is that you uphold the fundamental rights and make sure that you also do not become a culprit of abusing those rights for other people. And then young people, you also know that there is a special protection due to age and development. I tell folks all the time, do not be in a rush to become an adult. Enjoy your youthfulness, because there are laws that are also put in place to help you grow. Now, what I'm going to do right now is that we are going to watch a short video just to summarize and explain everything that we have said. And here is this video. Let's watch this video, and when we come back, we will have that conversation.
The idea of human rights is that each one of us, no matter who we are or where we are born, is entitled to the same basic rights and freedoms. Human rights are not privileges, and they cannot be granted or revoked. They are inalienable and universal. That may sound straightforward enough, but it gets incredibly complicated as soon as anyone tries to put the idea into practice. What exactly are the basic human rights? Who gets to pick them? Who enforces them, and how? The history behind the concept of human rights is a long one. Throughout the centuries and across societies, religions, and cultures, we have struggled with defining notions of rightfulness, justice, and rights. But one of the most modern affirmations of universal human rights emerged from the ruins of World War II with the creation of the United Nations. The treaty that established the UN gives as one of its purposes to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights. And with the same spirit, in 1948, the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document, written by an international committee chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt, lays the basis for modern international human rights law. The Declaration is based on the principle that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. It lists 30 articles recognizing, among other things, the principle of non-discrimination and the right to life and liberty. It refers to negative freedoms, like the freedom from torture or slavery, as well as positive freedoms, such as the freedom of movement and residence. It encompasses basic civil and political rights, such as freedom of expression, religion, or peaceful assembly, as well as social, economic, and cultural rights, such as the right to education and the right to freely choose one's occupation and be paid and treated fairly. The Declaration takes no sides as to which rights are more important, insisting on their universality, indivisibility, and interdependence. And in the past decades, international human rights law has grown, deepening and expanding our understanding of what human rights are and how to better protect them. So if these principles are so well developed, then why are human rights abused and ignored time and time again all over the world? The problem, in general, is that it is not at all easy to universally enforce these rights or to punish transgressors. The UDHR itself, despite being highly authoritative and respected, is a declaration, not a hard law. So when individual countries violate it, the mechanisms to address those violations are weak. For example, the main bodies within the UN in charge of protecting human rights mostly monitor and investigate violations, but they cannot force states to, say, change a policy or compensate a victim. That's why some critics say it's naive to consider human rights a given in a world where state interests wield so much power. Critics also question the universality of human rights and emphasize that their development has been heavily guided by a small number of mostly Western nations to the detriment of inclusiveness. The result? A general bias in favor of civil political liberties over socio-political rights and of individual over collective or groups' rights. Others defend universal human rights laws and point at the positive role they have on setting international standards and helping activists in their campaigns. They also point out that not all international human rights instruments are powerless. For example, the European Convention on Human Rights establishes a court where the 47 member countries and their citizens can bring cases. The court issues binding decisions that each member state must comply with. Human rights law is constantly evolving, as are our views and definitions of what the basic human rights should be. For example, how basic or important is the right to democracy or to development? And as our lives are increasingly digital, should there be a right to access the internet? A right to digital privacy? What do you think?
Summarize all that I have said for this number of time. So, what do you guys think? Was the video helpful in summarizing what I have said so far on the topic? Let me hear from you guys if the video was helpful in summarizing what we have said, because it's interesting that most people don't even realize that all these universal declarations are just declarations. They are not laws by themselves. So people violate this all the time, and the international community cannot do anything when local countries or nations violate these individual fundamental rights. But some of these courts, like the European Union Court and the African Union courts, they are putting in a lot of measures to hold nations accountable. And so this is the reason why I thought it was a good video to share as well. Yes, Latoya, I see you on up.
I think it's so ironic that during that time that they passed this or the Human Rights Declaration, that at that time, minorities weren't free in America, women weren't free, people in the colonies weren't free for movement. There were so many unfreedoms all around the world while they're presenting this human rights document. So I just find it really ironic.
Very, very, very ironic. And and in my human rights classes, people have asked me the same question, that on what basis was this declaration adopted and even led by Eleanor Roosevelt when blacks themselves have no freedom, when even women cannot participate in elections until 1968, thereabout. So how useful, let me see, how useful was this declaration? But again, I hear you, but I also think that it's a process. And in achieving things, you need to start from somewhere. You may not get what you want exactly, but at least it gives you a framework to work on. And the same applies to everyone in class. As you take on responsibilities and project and programs, you have to be in a place where you will have to start from somewhere. It may not be perfect, it may not be accurate, it will not give you the best of things you are looking for, but at least it's a framework to build on. And I believe those frameworks actually helped to the point that today, even me as an African immigrant to the United States, I can be in front of students of all race and colors to lecture at the university. So yeah, this wouldn't have happened some years back, because the fact that I'm even black, I cannot even sit in the same seat with the white person, let alone coming from Ghana and not originally even born from the US. So this is revolving. And I want to encourage everyone that let's continue it's a fight, it's a process, so that we can get there. But that's a very good question, observation though. Great. So let's look at some of the common human rights violations that occurs globally. Like we were just discussing, we discriminate all the time based on race, gender, religion, and sexuality. Latoya and I were just talking about it, that from a few years back, women cannot even vote. I have traveled. Yesterday, I told the class that next week I'm heading to Romania, and that is going to be my 145th country to visit since I started traveling. I have seen things happen in different parts of the world. If you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to these fanatic Islamic nations, it doesn't matter how intellectual you are as a woman, their fundamental rights have been taken away from them. You don't have the right to walk with your face showing, you have to cover, because that is the law. So a lot of things that happens that we, even as people, we have become perpetrators of those violations that we have to pay attention to. The other thing that happens, it's the poverty and lack. I tell people that basic needs, we just said a few moments ago that the fundamental right of everyone is to have the basic needs: water, shelter. Look, those in Ghana, and I'm sure Latoya in Uganda, and those of you in Uganda in this class, you can attest to that. Children are learning under trees. Children are learning in the very awkward conditions. They don't even have a potable water to drink, that you have to drink water from wells. And listen, this is not only in rural areas. I'm telling you, in big cities like Lagos, in big cities like Accra, in big cities, like Nairobi, these things are happening there as well. Basic things, violence, including domestic, community, and state violence. What do we see in our homes? Husbands are beating their wives. Women who are strong are beating their husbands. They are being denied even sex, to even have sex with their own wives and spouses. It's all part of the violations. Community violates us so much, because the resources that are meant to develop our communities are being violated because people are using it for their own selfish needs, affecting our societies. There's a restriction of movement. Until recently, if you want to travel from Accra to Nigeria, or if you want to travel from Accra to Mali, and you have to go by road, you will have the shock of your life to travel by road. Like in the United States, once I sit in my car and put on my seatbelt, I can drive to all the 50 states of the United States without a single police officer stopping me to asking me where am I going, except I'm violating the law by speeding. But you can say the same thing across the African continent. Why should that be? You know, we even went further to start establishing what they have, what they call what the West African card, the East African card, yet you still don't have freedom of movement. It's very important. And then denial of education and healthcare. Yesterday we talked about the factors that leads to conflict. And we came to the realization that there is a 90% invisible that leads to conflict. And one of them is the denial of education and healthcare. When you live in a community and your healthcare is broken, life expectancy will be almost nothing. When you cannot invest in educating our young people, we have a problem. As human rights advocates, as people working with international organizations, ask yourself, what is it that you are doing within your organization to empower people? Listen, guys, Latoya, I'm using that as an example. She can live a comfortable life in the United States. She can enjoy the blessings of being in that geographical part of the world. But she left all that and flew to Uganda to build the capacity of young people in Uganda. She's doing amazing work. And that is what we call giving people freedom. And so I will advocate that, listen, if you guys have any project on the ground, those of you in Uganda, connect with her, because she left the US to be in Uganda and to make sure that and I know recently she was even doing a project that with glass project that will involve Ghana. So guys, connect. It's another way of introducing her to you. But again, another fundamental right that usually get abused is child labor and exploitation. Listen, you will be shocked to learn that even in the United States of America, sexual and human trafficking, it's one of the highest level of violation of human rights. You will think that you will get these numbers in Africa, but trust me, it even all over the world, because we exploit people. We take advantage of people. Somebody is your friend. We started very well. We are working on the project together. All of a sudden, the project becomes sexual, and then became a relationship. And then as soon as you get what you want, you no longer want the person again. And then it creates, you have exploited the trust of that person. Be very careful when people trust you and they confide in you. Don't kill the soul in them. Many people love to do that, and it destroys relationship, because you cannot be an advocate of human rights when you yourself, you are abusing the fundamental right of the people around you. You cannot. Go find some work to do. Don't become a human rights advocate, because you don't belong to that space. So as we move forward, now we can also look at it from the local context. So in the local context, bullying and cyberbullying, now it has become the thing. People just go on your social media and rip you into pieces because they disagree with your fundamental principles or your position. We just said that everyone is entitled to their opinion. But yet somebody will bully you and put unnecessary pressure on you. Another human rights violations that happens in our local communities are educational inequalities. You see, again, those of you who may have traveled to the US, you will know that in US, public school systems are in zip codes. So for instance, if I live in zip code 22405, I cannot take, except I want to go to private school with my children. Otherwise, I cannot take my child to go to school in another zip code. There is a reason. Because we want to have a universal system of learning so that this is where you live, this is where you enjoy your education. So if there is a need for us to improve that education in that community, well, the people in that community come together and invest in that community. But you can't say that, well, because zip code 337 has good schools, and so I'm going to send my child to zip code 332 when I don't live in 332, or it's not within my geographical jurisdiction. It's against the law. You can even go to jail for that. So these are some of the things. And then discrimination against minorities. It happens all the time. Women are minorities in most places. We discriminate against them. You know, I hear loose talks like when men are talking. Yeah, what's your opinion of a woman? That's the reason why until today, the United States of America, which claims to be the greatest democracy the world has ever seen, is still struggling to elect a woman as a president. Irrespective of whether you belong to a party or not, they are still struggling. Even when Kamala Harris, as the vice president, she was still not accepted by the people of America, not because she's black, but because she's a woman. When God has blessed the nation with outstanding intellectual like Hillary Clinton, they would despise because she's a woman. And so the same thing you see across the globe. In Africa, how many women presidents do we have? We only have about three. About three so far, maybe more. But I know Salif Johnson, and then my good friend from Malawi, Dr. Joyce Banda, and then recently Tanzania also elected a woman president. But otherwise, it's a male-dominated zone. And all this begins from the way we violate these rights of women. Even in our local environment, our churches, our mosques, our institutions, we will do everything possible to challenge women from taking on a responsibility or leadership role. You know, I talked about domestic violence, so I'm not going to dwell on it again. Another violation there is a youth homeless. Many young people they can't afford anything. They waste resources, they waste materials, and they are sleeping on the street. Unfortunately, whenever I drive and I see a child or a youth homeless and have no future, all that I say to myself is that here is somebody who could be one day the president of a nation being destroyed, who could be a great leader the world has not explored, and that person will never become what was meant to be because of the fundamental abuse of those fundamental rights. Access to healthcare, and at the same time, environmental justice. We need to pay attention and allow these things to grow. So why is it that it is important for youth to know that they matter when we are talking about human rights issues? It matters because young people always bring fresh perspective to problems. I say this all the time. In Africa, in particular, we've been taught to know that wisdom, it only rests with the gray hair and the white beard. That's why you see that I have a white beard. Because the impression has been created that that is where wisdom lies. It is not true. Absolutely not true. Young people bring perspectives. Listen, I was talking to my son, and he was in the car, and I was standing on the other side of the car, and the glasses are all up, and so I was rolling my hands. You know, we are from the old generation. We used to, if you want to roll the glass down, you roll that thing, and so I was doing my hand rolling and he kept asking me what. And so I went and I tapped on the window, and I said, and then he popped the thing down. And I said, I asked you to roll the thing down. Why did you mind me? He said, yeah, but I was rolling my hand. So he thought I was skipping something. In their generation, you press and the levers come down. In our generation, we roll the glasses. So we need to understand the disparity and the fresh perspective that our young people bring to the table. Let us not deny them because they are young. Let them share their perspective. And again, remember, young people, like what is happening in Burkina Faso, what we seen in Mali, what we saw in Cote d'Ivoire, or what we saw in Senegal. Young people have passion. And because they have passion, they have the energy for change. And so let's bring them to board, give them the skills that they need, and let them be the change. And I say this all the time. You know, they can also influence their peers. Whether you like it or not, they are more than us. There are more young people than those in our age group. So let's utilize their strength and their numbers, excuse me, to achieve the things that we want to achieve. And I want to remind every leader here that young people are not the future leaders. They are part of today's leadership. Let us not create that myth in our mind that it is the future. What is future? Future is just tomorrow. So, and as I have shared with people who knows me personally, I always mention to them that life and everything human will fade away. Understand that truth, whether you like it or not. A time is coming that you will not be able to do the things you are doing again. You want to get to the age of the Ugandan president, or you want to get to the age of the Cameroonian president, Paul Biya, before you say you want to train somebody else. For God's sake, this is not the time. We need to rise up and empower our young people so that they can take full responsibility. And I understand young people will be making mistakes, which is okay. But let allow them to make mistakes, because mistakes are part of growth and leadership. Until we embrace mistake and see the goodness of it, we will always think that young people are not ready. If you don't give them the opportunity for readiness, they will never be ready. Margaret, I see your hand up.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm interested in the issue of young people. I want to take us back to our EndSARS in Nigeria, when we had young people coming up to engage. They mobilized themselves. They did everything they needed to do on their own, and they came out en masse to talk about issues that were not going well for themselves and their parents. And we saw young leaders that were mobilized. We saw young leaders that they had a mind of their own. And we also had young leaders that were able and managed to get the high and mighty G3. They did all they did together. They spoke with one voice. They mobilized together. They raised human resources. They raised the money. They raised leadership. And we saw Nigeria shake. But unfortunately, they were, the powers that be were mightier than them. But it's a phenomenon we can never forget in Nigeria. The way our young leaders came together and mobilized themselves. We that are their parents gave them kudos. So that is the power of what young people can do. And we, their parents, are solidly behind them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we are seeing the same thing happening across the globe right now, where young leaders, when given the opportunities, are making global impact. So let's engage them. Let's give them what they need and let them become what God wants them to be. So what is the role of education in human rights? When we take on human rights education, we create awareness of the right and responsibilities. Because if you don't know a value of a thing, abuse is inevitable. If you don't know what right you have, how do you defend your right? when a police stops you and you don't know that, you don't have to give the police your documents, except there has a probable reason for asking that. You don't know it. When a police knock on your door and they don't have a warrant to search your house, you have no right to open the door for them. But if you don't know that, as soon as you say police, hey, you open the door. So you need to create awareness for people to understand and appreciate that. Yes, Daniel, a quick question so that we can move forward.
Okay, all right. Not really a question, but I just wanted to make a comment on what you just said now.
Sure, go on.
Yeah, basically, yeah, in Nigeria, let me say Africa. The issue of being educated is a different thing, and the issue of even the forces, the Nigerian forces or the African forces being educated is also another thing. I can be educated and I know my rights, that a policeman cannot search through my phone, or a policeman cannot come to my house to make an arrest or to search my house without a warrant. But that doesn't work in Africa. Neither does it work in Nigeria. You go on the road and you see how police harass young people, tell them to bring their phone. Now, even though we know our rights, we are educated, but when you try to tell them, I know my rights, you don't have the right to check my phone, or you don't have the warrant to come into my house to search my house or to arrest me. The next thing is you see them brutalizing you, either hitting you with a gun or threatening to shoot you or something like that. So sometimes it's not like the part of being educated or advocating for this thing, letting people know their rights, that if they're educated, they can know their rights. This is what they have to do. Most of Nigerian youth or African youth know their rights. They're educated, but it's just that the so-called force that we have, or the so-called system that we have itself, it's not even educated. So how can we expect educated people to also even believe in such systems? So it becomes a problem. So when you say that, it might be a system that works in the United States where you are currently, but I know you stayed in, like you said, you stayed in Nigeria for a while, where you worked with ECOWAS and all of that, and I know that you must have had some of these things, and you must also have experienced it, that when it comes to Nigerian police especially, you can't tell them you're educated and that they can't search your phone, or you need. I've never had it in Nigeria. A policeman comes to your house with
Yeah.
a warrant. It's never done. Two
I
neighbors
appreciate
can just have an issue, and the other neighbor call the police, and they'll come and arrest you, and they
let's
can
wrap
keep
it
you
up because of
in the
time.
cell.
Let's wrap it up
They
because
can
of
keep
time.
you in the cell. Okay, they can keep you in the cell for 1 week or even more than. So for me, that's just the comment I have with what you just said.
I appreciate it. And what you said was absolutely right. But one of the things you need to understand, if you don't stand for something, nothing will happen. I'll tell you why. Now, the fundamental rights that the American people are enjoying today, as Latoya alluded earlier, didn't just happen. Do you know the number of times Martin Luther King has been to jail? He has been to jail more than 50 times. Do you know the number of souls and lives that has been lost? Today, we are enjoying those freedoms because some people stood for. Now, the Nigerian you are describing today was completely different from the Nigeria and the other leaders that you may have had. There were people who still believe in the fundamental right and still stood on their ground. And listen, freedom is not cheap. The freedoms we are enjoying today across the globe is as a result of people laying down their lives for you to enjoy. The only time that freedom becomes useful is when people like us in class stand tall to make sure that the efforts of those who have gone ahead of us did not come to waste. Because America wasn't what you see today. One of the most brutal human rights violations in the world happened in the United States. I will refer you to read a little more about the Selma and the and during the civil rights movements, and you will see that if folks like Martin Luther King and co gave excuses that, I mean, he's a PhD, he's a pastor, he's getting a salary. What business does he have to be on the street? Folks like John Lewis and co. to say that, hey, what's our own? Rosa Parks and co. violated the principles of discrimination, throw into jail just for us to have that freedom. So again, just as I mentioned to Latoya's response earlier on, it's a process. It begins by creating awareness, and awareness starts from our home. You sit with your family and tell them about their fundamental rights, the basic things that they need to know. They also need to appreciate and understand that the terrain is different. The fact that I told you that you have a right doesn't mean you go and stand in front of a Nigerian police force and say, I have a right. Then you are not being responsible. We all know that we have a right, but if you go and stand in the middle of the highway and a car is coming and say that I have a right to stand here, you will die. Unfortunately, rights comes with responsibility. So the whole idea is that with human right awareness, we are creating awareness. You need to be aware in order for you to, because remember in life, all that you know in life is what you are aware with. If you know that if a snake bites you, you will die, you will not allow a snake to bite you. But if you also know that if a snake bites you and you put this oil, I don't know what, I'm just fabricating a story. So nobody should go and stand in the way of a snake thinking you're going to get an oil. And use this oil and apply, it immediately neutralizes the poison, which means that you have knowledge. And so when that happens, you know what to do. But if you don't know, you will die. That's a simple truth. It's just like CPR. If you know how to resuscitate a person and somebody collapsed right now, you know what to do. If you don't know what to do, you will panic and start screaming, and by the time EMS comes, the person is dead. But a simple push on the person's chest will have saved the person's life. So it is very important, and I completely hear you, Aminat. Human rights conversations are very sweet. But when it comes to its implementation, yes, it is absolutely difficult, particularly in Africa. And the reason it is difficult in its implementation is because for us as people, we have refused to recognize the sacrifices that others have labored, and we are enjoying their glory. Again, I am in a place to share this knowledge because I have lived in most countries in Africa. For the record, I've visited all the 55 nations of Africa. Of course, I visited, I didn't live there, but I've lived in about 5 or 6 of them for a period of about 5 years, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and all those. So I have a perception of all that you just described. Now, I lived in developed nations like the US, I've been in Canada and the UK, and I have the perception of what the history and where they are. It takes guts, it takes consistency, it takes one step at a time. Because once you are able to influence one person, that's all you need. That one person will ripple that to another person, to another person, to another person. And by the time you say Jack, you realize that the tools we are giving you is that education is both a human right and a tool for realizing the right of other people. So I'm looking at the time. We need to move forward. So we'll come back to any other questions. And I see some questions in the chat. Chichi, I see your hand, but we'll come back to you later because of the time. So keep that thought so that we don't. Now, what we are going to do right now is that we are going to have a discussion in our group. We are going to have just 10 minutes, of a group discussion. 10 minutes of group discussion. Once we come back, we wrap up and we are done. So this group discussion what we are going to do is that we are going to look at these questions on your screen. What are the human rights violations as you've witnessed or in your experience in your community? Which group of people are most vulnerable to this violation in your area, and what are some of the barriers that prevents that? So what I'm asking is that we are just going to spend 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we'll come back and we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to put you in the group. You got to, there's one group, as I mentioned yesterday, which is for all the people that speak French. You can opt to join that group. Kojo will be in that group as well. Godwin is there as well, and then you can have a good conversation on the topic as well. So give me a second here, and then I'll put all of you in that group, and we'll come back. It's just 10 minutes. We are not going to spend more than 10 minutes, and then once we come back, we'll wrap up the class. So we talk about strategy, and if you want to be a passionate human rights activist, you should be able to turn your passion into action, because otherwise your passion will die with you. Yesterday, I told a group of scholars, these are PhD students that invited me to speak to them. So yesterday I spoke to them and I told them this. I said, your success is useless if there are no people around to celebrate your success. So the celebration of your success, because when you are successful in anything, those of you who went to school or got promoted, what do? As soon as you receive a letter of promotion, you get a phone and you call the people who matters to your life. Guess what? I got promoted. Either your spouses, your friends, your mentors, your uncles, your aunties, to share the success with them. And so if the people that you celebrate the success with are not there, then your success is completely useless. Nobody get to know about it. It doesn't make any difference. The same way is human right. If you have a passion for human right, you need to turn that into action. And how do we turn that into action? We must first of all develop an action plan to create awareness and also to be informed. Information is key. We've learned in this class already yesterday about the effect of communication. If you do not communicate and inform others about their fundamental right, trust me, you will be shocked to realize that how naive people are about their fundamental rights. There are a lot of people who don't know anything about their rights other than they going to their normal life as if everything is the same. It is always not the same. And then another strategy you use for advocacy is community organizing. I tell people this, and for all of you who are running your NGOs, and again, this is a good opportunity for you to share your NGO contact in the chat. Maybe somebody can have a coalition with you or plan with you to do something together. So that's why in the beginning I asked that, hey, put your information there, your organization, your contact, and you never know who is going to partner with you to do a project. But the truth of the matter is that the problem with most institutions is that we want to be alone. We want to work in silos. But we can't do that if we want to be an advocate, which means that we need to form coalitions for change. If my organization and your organization have the same purpose and mission, remember yesterday we talked about competing against the problem and not of ourselves. Many of us compete against ourselves instead of the problem. So what I'm asking is that if your organization has the same vision and mission with another organization, there is absolutely nothing wrong asking Aaron, hey, Aaron, you guys work with young girls. Listen, I am also having an organization that work with young girls. How do we partner to do a project? How do we advocate together for a change? Instead of trying to stand alone. Trees don't stand alone. When the trees stand alone, the likelihood that the storm will bring it down is there. So I will highly encourage that. Then policy advocate. You know, we live in a society which is governed and guided by laws. So if we live in society which is governed and guided by laws, then the expectation is that we should also be in a place and position to be able to change the laws. You should be able to advocate for change of laws and policies that serve the right of people. Listen, I won't mention the name of the country, but it's definitely not in America. I went to a country and they have a ministry responsible for disability and gender, I think, put together. And the Ministry of Disability have no disability facility like a lift to go to the 10th floor or 8th floor. What kind of policy is that? How do you expect somebody who cannot walk climb a 10-story building? So we need to advocate. I know in Ghana, for instance, for a long time, we were championing the right of the child, the Information Act bill. We're doing a lot of things. Recently, they've introduced something called witchcraft bill. So a lot of things that we need to change. And so we need to and listen, I tell organization this, do not try to be everything. Otherwise, you become useless. You have no value. Nobody will pay attention to you because today we are doing A, you are there. Tomorrow we are being do, you are there. You are everywhere. You have no benchmark. Identify your strength area. If your strength is about youth leadership, focus on youth leadership and become a mastery in that subject area. If your area is girls empowerment, do girls empowerment. Don't hop from one end to the other and to the other. Otherwise, you become irrelevant to the system. And then we must also listen. I say as a professor, I tell you, one of the ways by which I'm able to get the attention of my students is storytelling. That's why you always see me tell stories when I'm teaching. I will either talk about Ame's beautiful hair as a story. I will talk about Chichi's slick glasses. Every time she wears a different glass, slick glass as a storyline. You understand? So the thing is that people get attached to a storyline. So you have a story. Everyone has a story. You have achieved greatness. You have worked so hard. Use your personal story as a way of advocacy so that way people can appreciate why you are doing what you are doing. It's important. And again, like this particular point in time, we live in a dispensation where digital technology has become the tool. So if that has become the tool, why don't we use this opportunity to, as it were, create awareness? If people can sit in their home, and never step into a classroom and earns a degree, then we can use the same platform to change lives. It's a fact. It's a fact. If people can sit in their home and earn $6-figure for their work as remote employees, then we can utilize the same resources to create awareness and advocate. It is what you pay attention to that makes the impact. The other thing that is also important is to build awareness. You see, when we are building awareness or we are creating awareness campaign, our message have to be clear. That's why I mentioned that if we mention Girls Excellence Movement, we should know what your agenda is. Your message should be very clear and specific, and the target group should be understood. We don't have to struggle to ask you, so what do you guys do? It should show up immediately. So we should be able to have a clear message. What specific right are you promoting? That's why I said earlier on, don't run helter-skelter and promoting everything. You become irrelevant. When back many years ago, I think 20, 30 something years back in Ghana, Aaron, you can attest to that. There was this young boy called Bright. And anytime you talk about child rights, everybody will talk about Bright. I mean, he mastered he mastered the campaign around child rights. He may not even have a degree in child advocacy or doesn't understand what it is, but his organization focused on that to the point that that took him all over the world. Anytime there is a conference, UNICEF, what have you, child rights, even if he's talking nonsense, because his campaign was focused on child rights, he was doing child rights. So I want to encourage all of you, identify the specific area that you want to promote. And you must also have a target audience. You must have a target audience who needs to hear your message. Because if your message, you are doing child rights, or you are doing youth advocacy, you are doing women empowerment, and the ones who are supposed to hear your message are not hearing your message, then what is the use? If your target is about policy change, then you are talking to politicians. They are your target group. You need to be able to have contacts in parliament and be able to have lobbyists who can engage people to have that kind of conversation. And then you must use multiple channels to achieve your aim. Social media, activities, events, workshops, art and gallery, things that will be in the face of people. Because if you are not in their face, trust me, it is a big market and everyone is competing in that same market. So in marketing, we call it the unique selling proposition. What value? Why will we choose your organization to do this work and not the other organization? It is what you bring to the table. It is what you bring to the table. So we have to pay attention to that. And then call to action. What do you want people to do? Because honestly speaking, successful campaigns is a combination of both emotions with facts, which means that what you want people to do, you need to show them that you yourself, you believe in it. You know, there's a statement that says that I do what I do what I say and not what I do. What a cheap way of advocating and making a campaign. You are making a campaign to stop smoking, and you said, "Well, I can smoke, but I know smoking is bad, and so don't smoke." But I am championing that people shouldn't smoke. I remember back in the days, again, many years back, there was a backfire. There was a TV advert that was showing both in Ghana and I think Nigeria TVs, which is it's a Guinness uh, advert with a guy called Michael Power from South Africa. Now, Michael Power doesn't drink alcohol, but is advertising Guinness. What a contrast. You won't get the people to see your honesty. They can't do you know, it doesn't work that way. And then partnership, who can help amplify your message? I am telling you guys, if we fail to recognize that our efforts can only be amplified by others who have the capacity and the ability, we will go in circles and we will not achieve anything because we wanted to be seen. And wanted to be seen is not the result of how we build awareness campaign. Awareness campaign is to identify the key resources and partner to do a project together. There is absolutely nothing wrong that after the class, all the 116 people who were selected in this course decided to take one project and said, we are going to do this. There's nothing wrong. You can do it. You can do it. It's possible. I talked about using the digital platform because we are in the digital world. And this is something that you should take advantage of as much as you can. Use the Instagrams to create awareness. You see, listen, I'm telling you this. I use my digital platform very well. I like to write. I'm an astute writer. I love to empower people. That's my area of calling. Even if you don't pay me, I'll still teach. I'll still do what I do. So I tell people, use your platform, but understand that digital prints are important. Whatever you put there remains there forever. So use it carefully and judiciously. Use those TikToks and stuff. Stop watching women's butts and buttocks and nyash and focus on using these tools to promote and advocate for human rights. The reels that shows on your screen should be something that will champion the right of people. It's very important. You understand? And then Of course, we have website, we have blogs, we can even use petition like change.org. These things are very absolute that we can use. There are human rights apps that we can lean on as well to create some level of awareness and to touch people. Let us not put these things on the side. Let's use them to our advantage. So, how do we develop a project steps? The first campaign project is to identify the issues. What are the issues that we want to identify? What problems do we want to address? And then we dived into understanding the context. You know, if you don't understand a thing, you waste a lot of your time because at the end of the day, you go in circles and you don't get to where you're supposed to be. Define the specific outcomes using the SMART tools to be able to see whether the project that we say we want to work on, is it measurable? Is it achievable? Listen, there's, I think Loretta was doing a campaign, a project on sanitary pad. It's achievable project. We can evaluate it. How can we tie young girls or women having properly approved sanitary pad as part of a human rights campaign? How do we measure that this campaign is effective? Girls Excellence Movement did almost exactly like that, you know, and the project they actually showed the case study where a young girl was sexually used so that she'll get maybe equivalent of $5 to buy a sanitary pad. So this girl goes to have sex with a man just to have that money to buy. That is a campaign that you can advocate for and speak for. In fact, Jagils as an institution, we partner with Girls Excellence Movement. We are a small organization. We were able to raise maybe about $2,000 or so to buy sanitary pads to girls. It's a campaign. So it starts small, but you can make an impact. And then we need to listen, whether you like it or not, resources are very important. Without resources, you can have all the ideas on earth. Money is powerful. The one who says that if you love money, you are evil, that person doesn't know what money can do. Resources are important. So partner with organizations. When you are partnering with organizations, be very strategic. If I know organization A has money, partner with them, they will bring their money. Organization B have the material resources, partner with them, they bring the resources. Organization C have capacity and human resource, partner with them, they'll bring capacity and human resource. Do not only partner with organizations because they must give you money. Otherwise, you won't get anything at all. And of course, whatever you desire and you design, you must go ahead and execute that plan. Because at the end of the day, the success of a thing is as a result of its final output. And continuing in building that human rights networks, I will encourage that with the platform we've created, we will use that to share existing groups, human rights organizations that you can join as an organization, start a local chapter to bring some awareness about situations, create a coalition with organizations that you have met here. But listen, man, mentorship is a very powerful tool, both from individual perspective and organizational perspective. Become a mentor and share and connect with other like-minded organizations to create global awareness based on what you are working on. And finally, I will ask that you need to take immediate action. How do we take immediate action? You need to learn more. Education, continuous education is important. Do not in any shape or form just learn one thing and stop. Continue to learn, continue to expand, continue to pay attention. Start small. Like I said, Just start small. Small. You are not in competition with anybody. Just start small. And as you start small, you will see that it will grow. Connect. How do we connect? Connect with like-minded organizations. Speak up. Don't be quiet. Don't say that it doesn't concern me. I don't know whether it's I was going to say the accounts, but I don't want to commit myself. There is a proverb, I would rather say generally, there's a proverb in Ghana that says that when you see your friend's beard burning, put water near yours. Because if you say it doesn't concern me, by the time you realize it will affect you directly or indirectly. And then when there are issues to vote on, engage in listen, I tell people, and this is one area that I believe most people, religious people, particularly Christians, have made horrible mistakes. They always say that, oh, we don't participate in politics. Politics is dirty and it's for the people in the world. Really? The people in the world will make decisions and policies for you to accept and follow. That's the truth. If you don't get involved, you will allow people to make decisions for you. Because when government and politicians pass a bill and it's accepted and signed by a president, it becomes a law. So you don't want to participate, but you obey the law. So I want to encourage all of you to engage. And then, of course, there's a long-term vision. This is where you become an expert in the field. You become a consultant. You know, people will start seeing you as an authority. You start taking a leadership role and begin to advance knowledge. If that is an area that you are interested in, you begin to take classes and courses and taking a degree and become authority on the subject so you can share with people. One thing I want to remind every one of you as we wrap up is that human rights defenders will always start with a single step. What will be yours? What will be your strategy? And how will you utilize that to get to that point? To that end, I will say to all of you, human rights must be made a fact and not an idealistic dream. I thank all of you for allowing me to be in your space. And I want to thank you for participating in this course and this class. This is a crash course. This course definitely was about a 5 days course, but we've crashed it in 2 days. I hope and I pray that even though I compounded the topic and the content, it made a lot of sense to all of you. It has given you a basic tools to appreciate and understand the fundamental rights of everyone and to be able to be the champion of this right and be able to utilize these resources as a tool to become a better advocate both in your community and to the people around you. And so at this point, I will say I will have room for, let me see the time, I will have room for just about 3 questions. If there's anyone who has a question that you want to share, or you want to ask, I only have room for 3 questions. And then I will then ask Professor Alma to give us a rundown, wrap up, and then Kojo will do that for us. So if there's anyone who has a question, okay, so I see here in that order. Let's start with Margaret Chichi. Chichi.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Mine is not a question. I have raised my hand initially. And I just wanted to highlight the relevance of human rights education and conflict resolution. Human rights education emphasizes the importance of nonviolent conflict resolution and peaceful negotiation, especially when resolving conflicts. And we quite understand that when people are sensitized, when they are educated, and if they are trained using human rights approach, it will become easier for duty bearers as well as right holders to understand how to deal with human rights issues. And then we'll be able to have lesser violations and better justice systems. Especially very key, those that need this training are public institutions, law enforcement agencies, private organizations, as well as academic institutions. And I would like to just say that in Nigeria, I think we have made a lot of progress, because in most of the police stations we find, let me use Lagos where I reside as an example, we have human rights desk officers. Whenever we have cases of abuse, for instance, child rights abuse, because I am the coordinator for the child protection network in my community, Surulere. So we always come across so many child rights abuse cases. When we get to the police stations and we have the human rights desk officers attend to these cases, it is being handled in a better way compared to how it was in the past. You know, the victims, they have better trust in us, because we are there to ensure that these human rights officers do things rightly. So for me, I believe that human rights education has really, really gone a long way to help conflict resolutions, because some of these child rights issues stems from domestic violence, domestic conflict issues that arises. And when they are not well handled, it blows and escalates. So I really appreciate this course that Jagils and Kojo has put together, and I really appreciate the whole essence of it. And I believe that a lot of us that has joined here has come to learn, relearn, and also be able to put things in perspective even as we work in our various organizations. Thank you once more for the opportunity, Prof. And
I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. And then NASA. NASA, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you very much for the fruitful 2 days presentation, or should I call training, and this is very nice and educative. My question is that please, can we have this 2-day presentation in our email, because it will really help.
Yes, as I said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I said, yes, this presentation, both the videos from yesterday and today, as well as the PowerPoints with your certificates, will all come to you in your emails when they are ready. So you should get them sometime this week. Thank you. All right. So let's see. Margaret Olabisi.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for this opportunity. I just want to add to your presentation about community mobilizing. Our organization works at the grassroots level, and we had a project recently where we were working at the community level. We were establishing community response teams in those particular communities, and what we do is to look for people within the community who come together, and issues of violence in those communities are reported to those community response teams. We call them CRT. They are domiciled in that community. They are stakeholders in the community. They know the issues of the community. We train them how to report. We train them how to escalate issues concerning violence within that community. And they now report to us issues that we cannot take up on our own. We do referral. And we also do mobilization with the security agencies within that community. So grassroots, especially grassroots mobilization, is very, very important concerning human rights issues, because the people within the community know themselves. The only thing that they don't have is capability to escalate those issues. So what we do is just to train them, and they take it up from there. So thank you very much for this opportunity to belong to this course. Thank you, Prof.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for adding your voice to it. All right. So I see Dorothy, and then we have Mutak, and then that will be for it. Dorothy,
Okay.
if you mind.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank you, sir. Thank you, Prof. I can't really express how grateful I am, because I've learned a lot. I've been writing and writing. My question is about the assignment you gave us before the commencement of the program. I would love to have a feedback from you pertaining my own contribution. since I see myself as how will I put it, entry level person in this field. So your feedback will be of immense help to me. And another thing I want to say is yesterday I really want to say a big kudos on how you handled the little hitches we have here and there, people that were not able to mute their mics. In fact, I saw that as the way you handled it was more of a professional, at a professional level. Thank you so much for being considerate. Thank you for this opportunity. I've learned a lot. God bless you, sir.
You are most welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you for your kind words as well. And Mutak, you will be the last person to speak, and then we will give you an announcement that we are done. Mutak.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hi.
Firstly, are you with me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me, ba? All right, sir. First, I have to say a good thank you to you for you that you make us to be an highly educated and highlighted us the areas that we're supposed to understand, and we misunderstand it previously. And because of this, yesterday and today, I developed a high interest regarding the study of law, because I know that all these are from law and the other related matters. My background is science, and since from yesterday to today, because of your teaching method, I developed a high interest regarding the study of law. Is there any scholarship for somebody who is being part of this great program to study law? Because I know that many of us have this question in their minds. Thank you so much, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Good question. Yes, there are definitely a lot of resources available that I believe that going forward, we will share with all of you that you guys can take advantage of. But as to specific funding, I cannot tell because there are different kinds of laws and there are different kinds of scholarships available. But we can share different resources that you can take advantage of, and then we can use it as we go forward. All right, thank you so much, and thank you everyone. I know it's been a long day, long 2 days yesterday and today, and so at this time, Professor Ama, who has been behind the scene working with me, making sure everything is well coordinated. Ama, let's hear your please, if you can, tone down. Don't use your African accent. I just wanted to laugh.
Any chance? It's okay. All right. I've really enjoyed being here today. And with all the contributions and everything that everybody says, and Professor Samuel Jacobs-Abbey, we really do thank you for availing yourself. I know it's been a packed 2 days for you, and so we really do appreciate taking the time to dive into these subject matters because it's very important, especially when we talk about conflict resolution and also human rights, and how that affects the work that each of you do as leaders as well. And so we do appreciate you for all that time. And we also appreciate everybody who signed up for this class for being here. We really do hope that we don't sit on these knowledge that we've attained, but that we would actually move into action with what we've learned here, so that it doesn't become another certificate on your wall, but it really does move us into action. One thing I've learned recently is that each of us have different ministries, and ministry always goes with service, which is an action thing. And so we can't just attain knowledge and sit on it. We really need to move into action because we all recognize, as Professor has taught us today, that as much as human rights is an individual right from birth, there's a lot of us that are still suffering from the lack of being able to exercise our human rights. And so it takes us attaining these knowledges to educate others and to make changes in our communities. So I really do hope, again, that we take it into action. And that I'll end here, and I'll just say that God bless us all for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right. So class, before we invite Kojo to give us a wrap up, few announcements. So this is what is going to happen. Of course, everybody who knows me, I'm the type who do not reward a bad behavior. And so in case you did not complete the case scenario that you were supposed to do before the class, I want to give you an opportunity because you came to the class. We want to give you an opportunity. Please make sure you go into the Google class. After the class, I'm going to extend the date again to the end of tomorrow. Make sure you submit that so that we have that. Number two, I'm also going to ask you, I'll put you in the WhatsApp platform so that you give us your exact name as you want it to appear on your certificate so that we can get all done. And then, like I said, you are going to get all the details as part of the information sent to you. They will all come in the email that you submitted. And so just look out for that. Whenever it's ready, it will come to you and then we'll pick it up from there. And to that point, Kojo, if you are there, I want to give you the last straw and then we'll call it a day.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you who have been here in the class since yesterday. To the trainers, thank you very much for your time because behind the training there is preparation, there is creation of
Your face, Mr. Kojo. We cannot see your face.
it's true. Yeah. Okay. So behind the training there is preparing everything, and really we are grateful. Thank you very much for the work and for everything that have been done here. As I said in the beginning, after this course we all become experts in human rights education. So you can see that I was not lying when I said it. So what I want to say, Prof said it yesterday before we started the class, that there is a pilot project that will go on here in Bilbao, where with our partners, we will try to bring people here in Bilbao in what we call a study visit on human rights education. But before that, as we see the interest in the course, as we see the interest in the subject that has been discussed, we are aware that we didn't have enough time to discuss everything, especially the peace education part and peace building part. So we are talking with the trainers, and hopefully in the month of August, we will have another 2 days training, and this will be specifically related to peace education, but we will link it to electoral processes. So peace education, human rights education, human rights defense, but in a electoral process. So what happens during elections related to peace, related to human rights, and how can we defend, how can we preserve, promote peace and human rights during electoral processes. So this will be happening in August. So we spoke to our partners, the Basque government. They will support us in holding another 2 or even 3 days training course. So Prof will work on that, and we will get the date, and you will be invited. What we would like to do is to keep this group, because we want to give a continuity to what we are doing. We want it to have like a flow so that the training or the knowledge can be built on what we already have. Thank you very much for being here. We will keep in touch, and many initiatives, projects will come out of this. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Always understand that there's somebody looking at you. They may not talk to you. They may not ask you a question. They will not say anything to you, but they are looking at you. You are an inspiration to people you are not aware of. Be very careful how you lead your life. Be very careful how you mentor people around you. Be very careful how you speak to people, especially when you are unhappy, because all your work and your effort will be meaningless and useless and foolish when people cannot look up to you and align your actions to what you speak. So I'm encouraging each and every one of you as you go out there to make global impact, always understand whether somebody is looking at you directly or indirectly, you are always being looked at and you are always being watched at. I like to remind leaders all the time, nobody is going to give you a trophy when you are excited, because when you are excited, you do the things that makes you happy. It is when you are unhappy, when something triggers your emotions, when you're going through pain, a moment of disappointment, that is when your real attitude and action is shown. So be that inspiring leader for the people who are watching you without you knowing. Because the day you screw up, that is when you will know how much you have broken people's hearts, because they look at you from afar. Never despise what you do, thinking that nobody is seeing it. People are watching all the time. All the time. And remember, you are not doing it for people. You are doing it for your own legacy. Because whether you accept it or not, a time is coming when you fade away. But like we just spoke about Martin Luther King, can we talk about Randolph 100 years from now? Can we talk about Edward 200 years from now? Can we talk about Latoya 1,000 years from now? What legacy, what footprint are you leaving so that somebody can say that this person made an impact in my life? I wish you the best of luck. You have my contact.